All right, folks, thanks for joining us again on A Family Through Service, a V2VG podcast, a video podcast, on the second part of our interview with Mr. Armand Kamiri, 101st Vietnam veteran, paratrooper. The first segment we talked about his youth, his childhood, and his escapades on his motorcycle. And some training in the Army, National Guard stuff. So kind of leading up to his time to wear the war. And I noticed you're wearing the same thing as you did the last interview. So that's, maybe you need to do laundry. That's his favorite vest. So I'm wondering, some real jerk got you that vest. I don't know.
Well, I get a lot of comments on this vest. And I get a lot of thank you for your service.
Yes.
Which we did not get when I returned from Vietnam.
True. That's true.
Today it's almost magical. People greet me. I even had a state trooper a few years ago who happened to be walking behind me in a grocery store.
Yeah.
And he says, "Like your vest."
Yeah.
And I turned around and saw it was a state trooper, and I said, "Like yours too."
Right. That's awesome. And it's definitely well past time that the citizens of this country give the Vietnam veterans what they're due, what they're owed.
And you know, Korean, Vietnam, all the way up. It really is. It's very
forgotten war.
Those are the forgotten wars.
Yeah.
The invisible wars. My older brother served in Korea.
Yeah.
He was in the Air Force. As a matter of fact, he was he repaired the 50 caliber machine guns that they had on the Sabre jets.
Nice.
Sabres, yeah. Yeah.
And they were very deadly.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, well, I mean, 50 cal, you don't have to actually hit the target anyway. It's one of those things, you know, you hit near it, it's going to do some damage as well. So
how did you arrive in Vietnam?
Well, before I want to ask just to kind of illustrate how unprepared America was to be involved in there. Exactly how many jumps did you do when you got to Vietnam?
I had made 21 jumps.
No, in Vietnam?
No, there were no jumps in Vietnam when I got there. They had made 3, and all were very bad.
So
you went through a punji stick, sticking up 4 feet, and you're coming down on a parachute. Even on your tippy toes, you can't avoid that.
Yeah, and I think it's very telling because you went through all of this training. You were getting hazardous pay. You see your brothers in arms passing away during this training, and then they send you to a place, I think more so out of not having the intelligence of what was going on in the country of Vietnam. I mean, I imagine that's the reason.
It's for European theater, basically, or not jungle.
I was trained, which would have been mainly a suicide mission, but to jump out of a C-130 behind Russian lines. They were our enemies at the time.
Yeah.
And I was trained as a gunner on a 106 recoilless rifle, which was mounted on a Jeep. If the Jeep driver was good, we may have made it. If the gunner, the loader was fast, we may have got it done. And if the firer, is that the correct? Probably not. But the guy actually fired that enormous shell was any good, then we could knock out Russian tank after Russian tank.
Yeah.
And they would have been by the thousands. It would have been pretty much a suicide mission.
But we didn't have much use for that over in Vietnam.
No, and I was the gunner on a 106.
Yeah.
And I was good at it. And then they take these troops trained to fight in Europe, and they stick you in the jungle
Because they figure.
And that's the point I was trying to prove with all that training. And it actually is very similar to what was happening up until post 9/11. It was like it was all jungle warfare and not being prepared for the desert and
Or urban anymore. Now we're more asymmetrical.
Everybody has its place.
Yeah.
So about what year did you get into Vietnam, approximately?
I was there in 1966.
Okay.
So close to the tail end, right, of the war?
No, it was full bloom.
Oh, this is this is the heaviest of the fighting.
Because remember, I believe it ended in either 72 or 74.
That's right.
Yeah.
I was thinking Korean War was 55 to 65 or something. But so you go there, and what was your main job when you were there? Because it wasn't jumping anymore. So what was your job?
Well, in the Army's infinite wisdom, of course, since I was had been trained as a gunner, anti-tank gunner, they put me in a mortar squad.
Okay.
I've never seen a mortar.
Because that's totally the same. Yeah. Before that, though, when you arrived in Vietnam, also in the Army's infinite wisdom, were you equipped with the right gear for desert warfare? Like the right clothing and
jungle
warfare?
He said
no.
He said desert.
Yeah, desert
jungle warfare.
Jungle camo and jungle boots.
You had to scrounge anything you were going to get. I had my regular
the wooden,
the daily uniform, the work uniform,
Yeah.
The barracks uniform, and that wasn't suitable for jungle. I mean, it absorbed moisture and held it. But one day they came in with a pull cart, and they had jungle uniforms in there.
Yeah.
And they yelled, "Come and get them if you can." and so you made a mad dash.
So it was a free-for-all to get so it was organized at all.
No, you grabbed your uniforms and all that, and I had traded jungle boots for a brand new pair of highly shined Paratrooper boots.
Yeah, the Cochrane jump boots. They're expensive now. I can't even imagine.
Oh gosh.
Yeah,
I had a pair of Cochrane jump boots, and they are. Yeah.
And the guy told me this is the way you get your jungle boots by trading. So I figured, he's not lying. So so that's how I got my jungle boots, was trading off with somebody who was leaving.
Yeah.
So has the irony of being in a mortar squad been lost on you with the type of injury that you have?
Oh, absolutely. Because we didn't have any mortars. And the reason we didn't have any mortars was because I think stateside somebody was screwing around with the mortar round, and they discovered that some of the mortar were coming out on the 81 millimeter mortars. They were coming out and exploding within seconds.
Sabotage, right?
Yeah,
Domestic
and
sabotage.
it would kill the whole crew.
Yeah. No.
And so they said, "You're part of the mortar squad," which meant just be someplace.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Here's a rifle.
Yeah. So, Tippett, did you do any type of training when you first got there, as far as working with a mortar?
No, I never even saw a mortar.
So
they had taken them away. We had.
So you had your rifle.
You had your rifle. I mean, there's that.
Yeah.
How did you
it
go
was
about
missing
getting
a
around
cotter
this?
pin and the bolt, but hey,
Details.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
So after all this equipment fiasco and you got with your unit, tell us about how you went about attaching yourself to your unit, where you guys went, and just let us know what happened.
Well, we, of course, they never spoke with new guys.
Right.
And it took a considerable amount of time before you weren't a new guy.
Yeah.
So I made friends. I had a good friend with Sergeant Morningstar.
Yeah.
who later, the morning after, he had visited me, and after I had been wounded, he was killed in an ambush, caught a 51 caliber Russian machine gun straight across the chest.
Yeah, that's
So
pleasant.
he was
I
gone.
imagine.
But I found that out later in the hospital,
Yeah.
a few months.
So how would you in that time frame? How would you get like ammo or any type of?
You fought for it.
Was it being taken from our deceased soldiers?
Well, you would do that, and magazines were tough to come by.
Yeah.
Sure.
And so if someone's wounded and going back to the hospital, well, he's not coming back to the same equipment, et
Yeah.
cetera, et cetera,
Yeah.
if he comes back at all. So you took as many of the magazines and ammo you had.
So you still had to scrounge for this stuff.
You did.
Yeah.
I was given the M16, a magazine, 20 rounds of ammo, and I was put on the rescue.
Oh,
team.
the QRF, the Rapid Rescue Team, right?
Yeah. And if a chopper went down, we would get into a Huey and we would go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was my first true action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I told Sergeant Morningstar, I said, Sarge, I'm on this rescue team. Shouldn't I have more than 20 rounds in one magazine?
Yes.
He said, no, you take what they give you. I said, no,
Yeah.
I'm not going anyplace unless I've got 400 rounds of ammo, which was the standard issue.
Yeah.
And he grudgingly, I think that's what made us good friends, he grudgingly got me 400 rounds, and I scrounged up some magazines and,
I'm
and
not
so
going
on.
with 20 rounds.
The squeaky wheel,
The
right?
squeaky wheel gets the grease. That's for sure.
Yeah, and we did get a call. A Huey went down near a bomb crater, and the VC were in the bomb crater. It must have been a pretty good size bomb. I think it was from B-52.
So that means no concealment, no place to hide. I mean, everything around that
Not
area is
for
going to be
us.
dead. Yeah.
For them, they had that hole.
Yeah.
You had mentioned one time, close to the time of your becoming a casualty, you guys were bathing in a beautiful stream, and you had found out that they were literally right across. You know, how far do you think?
20 to 50 feet.
That's where their little
Depending on-
rat holes, their
Yes.
tunnels were.
A gorgeous stream. It was crystal clear. You could see the fish swimming around,
Yeah.
and you could see everything. And from 3 feet deep it was. And we're bathing. Of course, your rifle buddy,
Yeah, well, yeah.
whom I didn't like. He didn't like me. I don't think he was a paratrooper. He was just an a-hole. But when he was bathing,
Yeah,
I was on the embankment,
Yep.
keeping an eye out, and vice versa.
yeah.
And yeah, we were within easily 50 feet. I mean, they could have taken out half of us who were bathing. I mean, you.
For whatever reason, they said,
Hey, you know,
Well, I should say, this was in Ducko.
okay,
DUCCO. It was a small village, I assume. And we were not far from and I can't think of the name, and I know it very well. We were in the Central Highlands, and it was it turned out to be a famous firefight. Play crew. And the VC were getting ready for some kind of attack. And so we were inserted
yeah,
right in the middle of them. We came in with the Hueys under fire, but our greater firepower kept them away from us. And they weren't ready. The bigwigs, this was North Vietnamese Army, and they were about quarter of a mile on a hill, honeycombed.
That's really close.
Yeah.
It's really, really close.
Yeah, I mean, even for the standard M16, and they were using, AK-47s, mostly Russian style.
Oh, they absolutely, yes. By then they had nothing but AKs.
You can shoot almost iron sights at a quarter mile.
Yeah.
You know, like,
you could
we've all
definitely
trained that
people
way.
who were bathing the stream.
And iron sights means no scope, no anything. Is that little piece of metal that sticks up at the barrel, just for those who don't know. But I think what's really interesting about this story is that talking about that spring, it kind of deviates away from the image we have of the country Vietnam, because we're so drawn and beaten into the death and war that's always gone. We forget about the natural beauty that does exist in these countries. So I think that's really important.
Yeah. It's not all mud.
No, I mean, it was heavy jungle. I remember coming in on a Huey under fire.
Yeah.
And the little lights were blinking in the jungle below.
Sure.
And it reminded me of Christmas tree lights. The little blinking lights.
Just deadly ones.
Yeah, if you could see them, but that's what it reminded me of.
Yeah.
And so we would shoot at those little lights and try and put them out.
Yeah, well, right. I mean, in that time frame, night vision goggles were hard to come by, if at all.
We did not have that capacity at all.
You know what I mean? Like, it's so the best thing you could do is aim for the muzzle flash. I mean, that was
This was daytime. And so it was really quite pretty.
Yeah.
In my mind.
Yeah.
Of course, the AK rounds going through a Huey make a funny sound. You know, and
it's amazing what soldiers think of when they're in peril.
Right, and it's what we have to do. We've talked about this before, that dark sense of humor, the things that we have to do in order to mentally survive combat.
Well, and I do remember how my butt puckered as they were shooting. You tighten your butt muscles as tight as you possibly can, and you say, okay, that's going to stop the bullet. But I mean, what else do you have?
Right, I mean,
sit on a flak jacket if you're lucky enough to have one, and pray that the rounds go somewhere else.
We didn't have a big field of a landing zone.
Right.
We had a road about as wide as this room, good for a single car to go through. And
talk about the pilot threading the needle.
And they came in, and we're jumping out at 4 feet, and we start firing into a big stand of bamboo, and some dumb idiot sergeant. I didn't mean to use the S word.
Now you owe us 75 cents.
And he says, well, get in there. And he told me and my buddy, get in there. Through the bamboo. They had bamboo vipers that were deadly.
It's funny. So they're shooting at you, and your concern is a bamboo viper.
Yeah. I mean, you know, it's because they're not hiding in the bamboo.
Yeah.
You know?
What's really funny is, in that Carlos Hathcock book I gave you, he talks about that very thing, that he wasn't afraid of any of the combat, but as soon as that snake came near him, he froze up like a little girl. He was just like, you know.
Because snakes don't care.
Yeah. And
a snake will bite you.
If you move.
Yeah.
I had one crawl over my arm when we were on an ambush mission one night, and the jungle is so enormously dark that if you looked at your hand, you couldn't see it.
Yeah.
It was like being blind.
Sure.
But you could feel.
Well, yes.
Oh, sure.
And I imagine that would be heightened because of not being able to see.
Yeah,
so you probably
feel
have
and hear and see.
And especially when you're listening and trying to peer through the darkness for movement. And I said, well, I knew enough about snakes that if you move and scare them, they may not be able to eat you, the smaller ones,
Yeah.
but they will react.
Oh, yeah.
And so,
Not friendly.
and you couldn't move anyway. If you moved and you gave your position off to the enemy, you
forget
were
about
going to
it.
be.
Yep.
There was no action that night. You just stayed awake all night and
Yeah.
thought about things.
Yeah. So tell us about the night in
Well,
question.
in order to do that, you have to tell us about the day before, because I truly believe that's the whole reason that they fired mortars at you. Is you did a very specific thing on their roads,
You left them a present.
and this was like the
reason.
day before.
This is the reason you were targeted, just so you know.
Yes.
We found out.
We have people in Vietnam right now who have confirmed that. So
Yeah, I didn't have an entrenching tool. And for you people who don't understand that, it's a shovel.
yep.
And so I wasn't about to bury something that was natural. And so we were next to this path, well-worn path. It was approximately 2 feet wide.
Yeah.
And they were going to come up because that was coming from their headquarters.
Sure.
Yeah.
On that hill.
Yeah.
And so I walked out about 50 feet, which was really too far.
That's kind of far.
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I figured, well, if you're out here, you ain't taking me prisoner because I ain't going. And I relieved myself in the middle of that path that I knew they were going to be coming up.
He's being
And I
kind.
was-
He took a shit.
I was just, Chuck, I was just going to say that.
Well,
Pretty much the highway of their foot
A
patrol.
true blue American poo.
Yes.
and the food we got meant there was buku amounts.
Oh yes. And that's true to the day with the. I mean, you call them sea rations, right? In your time, but we
Yes.
did the MRE, which is so much better than even when Eric and I were in.
No,
But
it's
those were better than when you were in. So But so what happened after? So the next night, you're in a group of what?
3.
So 2 other people and yourself.
Yes, we were.
Yeah, so.
I had my rifle buddy. He didn't like me, and I didn't like him. We almost came to blows
Right.
when we first met.
Yeah.
I don't believe he was a paratrooper. I believe he was a conscript. And they had to keep filling the holes as paratroopers
and
were
they did
injured.
at the time. They did.
Yeah, I didn't know that at that time,
Right.
and
So this
I
was
didn't like him. I didn't-
nighttime, though, right?
so while we're in that position and we are away from the main group, we are the ones to be killed as a warning that the firefight was coming.
So
So
you were in a
wait.
foxhole, a fighting position?
There was no foxholes. We didn't have entrenching tools.
Oh, right. Well, that makes sense then.
So
Yeah.
you guys were almost like a security force, like
So
you were
the
the very
fire.
yeah.
We were, yes.
You were the gate guards
exactly
of
right.
Afghanistan.
Sure.
Unfortunately,
And but if we were not killed instantly, we had a good fighting position in that we had a stand of bamboo that we
Okay.
could have gotten into, and you would be well hidden, and you could fire and then move.
yeah,
You know,
yeah.
Sure.
And
So they
scare
couldn't
the-
track your.
scare
Yeah.
the bamboo vipers away.
Throw it at him.
Yeah, and there was also a tree that gave us some cover during the rain,
Sure.
and you could sleep up against it at night. Oh, that was so nice. Your poncho,
So when this night happened, was there a firefight before
Yeah.
your actual incident?
No, it was quiet. We had been warned by the sergeant that tonight was the night.
So you knew something was coming.
We had 105 howitzers
Okay.
on a hill approximately 150 feet from where we were.
So realistically, you guys were guarding the howitzers. Not you.
That's
but
what we were doing.
Yes. Yeah.
We were there to prevent the howitzers from being taken by VC. And they were pounding the heck out of those hills I was telling you about, including the one that was only 100 feet from us.
Yeah.
Sometimes they'd swing those around and blast into them. We did have a firefight one night when we invaded that hill. We lost one man. I have no idea why he was there. He had no ammunition.
Go figure, right?
And he's running around.
Did he have a
hill.
bayonet or anything?
No, he had
His rifle he can use as a baseball bat, and that was like it.
And of course he was killed.
So you guys are sitting there, it's you and these two other soldiers, and it's a relatively peaceful, quiet night.
Yeah.
Okay, were they supposed to be asleep?
No.
Taking shifts?
No.
Well, I mean,
No.
hey, normally it's one person sleeps, two people awake. That's what I was trained with.
We were. Yeah, this was different. We knew they were coming.
And they were like, we're going to sleep.
Yeah.
Go for it.
And I was kneeling on one leg so I could move.
Yeah.
'Cause not having a hole to get into, I wanted to get into the bamboo or behind a tree.
Sure.
And all of a sudden, the quiet was broken by the whistle of mortar rounds coming in. I'm told that they don't whistle today.
Some whistle and some make like a swoosh sound.
Yeah. Well,
It
these
depends on the
whistled.
fin. Yeah.
Yeah, these whistled. And they were coming in rapids and
Succession.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
No worries.
There were 3 very quick mortar rounds coming in, and 2 of them hit near the howitzers.
Which were at the top of the hill.
That was been 200 feet from me.
Yep.
And the third one, I said, that sounds different. And then I realized it was coming on top of my head. And
Sounds a little
so
different.
I yelled to my rifle buddy, who didn't seem to have stirred.
It's not funny. It really isn't. But,
It's more of an incredulous chuckle.
Yeah, I yelled mortar, and I dove, and it went off 6 feet from me.
And you believe this is a company-sized mortar?
A 60,
A 60.
I believe it was 60 millimeter.
Yeah.
It sounded like 60 millimeter to me,
Yeah.
which, as you know, is equal to 3 or 4 hand grenades all at once.
Ish. Yeah.
Yeah, and
so what was the first...
ranges
Oh,
is
yeah.
pretty good.
So what was the first thing you thought of immediately after you were hit?
I didn't know I was unconscious until I woke up.
Yeah,
The doctor later asked me, "Did you become unconscious?" And I didn't think I was, but yeah, I had to have been.
Yeah.
I was caught in midair when that round went off.
Yeah.
And so the hot gas and the blast caught me and spun me around.
Okay.
And a piece of shrapnel hit my left eye.
Yeah.
But as I spun around, the shrapnel hit me from the bottom of my feet to the top of my head. And I spun around, landed on the ground, face down. And when I woke up, and I assume I was unconscious for at least a few seconds, the blast was
most likely.
pretty heavy. And from 6 feet, there's no way to survive an explosion from 6 feet, since its killing radius is a minimum of 30 feet.
Yeah.
Concussive and fragmentation.
Yeah.
So somehow you managed to make it.
So I laid there, and the pain was so horrible. that I didn't know where I was wounded.
Right.
I could not tell if I knew I had injuries, but I couldn't tell where.
Sure.
Because the bottom of my feet to the top of my head was painful.
Yeah, like every
Enormous.
aspect. Yeah.
Painful. And so I lay there and I couldn't move because I was paralyzed. Of course, what went through my head.
Sorry about that, folks. Our battery died, so we're continuing again with the story of how Armand was hit with with a mortar round.
So
Correct.
So you were blown up, spun around in the air, and landed, and you felt pain from literally head to toe.
Every part of my body, I couldn't tell where I was.
when you landed,
injured.
were you on your stomach or your back?
I landed on my stomach.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Which I believe had to do with my training. I believe that I felt the shrapnel go into my stomach and up into my chest, and that my arm went there.
Yeah.
But I have no way of proving that.
Yeah.
Also, I was holding my rifle.
And I was just
Sure.
going to say, you were looking for your rifle when you first came to.
I couldn't look for it, but I was wondering where it was.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't feel it.
Yeah.
So I laid there, and I was paralyzed from the pain and the shock. The blast should have killed me. 6 feet, I should not have survived, and I knew it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So after a while, my body started to adjust. There's only so much pain your brain can handle.
Yeah.
And then it goes numb. It doesn't accept any more pain signals.
Right.
And that's when I became numb.
And typically it's that, or you go in complete shock, where a lot of people end up dying because they're not able to, deal with their wounds.
That's correct. I was told by family and many people that it was indeed a miracle that I survived that. I wasn't thinking that at the time. I was just thinking, where's my rifle? I want to shoot those bastards.
Yeah.
So what did the NVA, or you were fighting the NVA at the time, the North Vietnamese Army,
Yes.
what were they doing after you were hit? Where your position was mortared?
They came up.
Yeah.
My rifle buddy was moaning, and he was a few feet from me. And I said to myself, that's not good.
Right.
Shut the hell up. But I couldn't tell him that because my talk alone might alert.
Yeah. You weren't going to make noise.
So I made no noise. But I think he was semi-conscious and probably couldn't help himself. Anyway, they heard that. And I think it was their commander, sergeant, or what have you, seemed rather angry with his voice. And the next thing I heard was an AK-47 opening up. And I said to myself, that's the loudest gun I've ever heard. Because it was pointed directly at me. And it is. A gun pointed directly at is loud. But thankfully, their training is to spray. And of course, it was nighttime, but they were only 6 feet away from me. 6 feet. And I said, I can't survive this because he's shooting. And of course, as you guys know, the flash of a firearm at least gives you light to see.
Especially the AK platform.
Oh, yeah.
Right. And especially when it's full automatic, you
Every now and
it's
then
kind of
it's
like
gonna be-
that light bulb.
Strobe
there,
light,
that's
yeah.
why, strobe.
Yeah.
And so they opened up, and immediately my rifle buddy stopped moaning.
Yeah.
I believe he took the first round. That was 30 rounds. the bullets were so close that when they kicked up dirt, it actually stung my face
That's very close.
and my body. And I could kind of feel the tug of my uniform as they put bullet holes through it.
So you heard them actually change magazines. So they
Yes,
emptied a
they
full
were round.
magazine.
And I said, I can't believe I'm still alive. But then I listened to them. They popped in another magazine, cranked the bolt back, and opened up again. I says, well,
And now we're talking
can't
60 rounds.
I says, I can't survive 60 rounds. They've got me. And so I just waited. I had made a deal with God. I said, Lord, I'm going into combat. Please allow me not to become blinded. Don't let me catch a bullet in the head because I want to know I'm dying.
Yeah.
And I want to prepare. It's one trip everybody makes.
Yeah, of course.
And I wanted to be aware of that trip.
Sure.
And I said, Lord, don't let them blow off my testicles.
Those are reasonable
please.
requests.
Have those descended since your jump with that parachute, tighten it all up around there? So
So then they come back down.
Yeah. And the good Lord, having a sense of humor, he took one eye, took a chunk out of my penis, and put shrapnel in my testicles, which is still there today. And he didn't kill me right offhand.
you didn't get shot in
Instead of
the
the headshot, he
face.
took one of your lungs.
Yes, that. So I lay there, and the 60 rounds, it was all. I said, I can't believe I'm still alive. How could that be? They did manage to give me a bullet burn on my right leg, just above my ankle, which I didn't feel. And
On top of everything
then I
else.
listened to him change magazines and crank the bolt back. But I figured he's got to be loaded to move on. And he opened up again.
So
And the
90 rounds.
90 rounds. And the stinging from the dirt kicking up so close amazed me that I could actually feel that. And then it stopped. And I says, I can't believe I'm still alive. How can this be? 90 rounds from 6 feet? And even though it was nighttime, the flashes he had to be able to see.
One would assume.
But-
yeah.
Where
I think the key was your individual fortitude and training of shutting up. You didn't wince. You didn't scream. You didn't. Those were the things I think that it didn't. They were just like whatever. They figured you were probably dead anyway.
And so what did the NVA do?
After the third magazine, did they just leave you there?
Oh no, that would have been too easy. I wasn't paralyzed anymore, but I knew enough not to move about.
Yeah.
Right.
And the next thing I felt was a ever so light brush against my left leg.
Mm-hmm.
And so I held my breath.
Yeah.
And this North Vietnamese soldier ever so gently pulled my rifle out from underneath me. And I said to myself, so that's where it is.
Son of
If
a
I
bitch.
had known,
I would have shot back at least.
I figured I could have taken, and that's what I said, I could have taken 4 or 5 of you guys on full auto by the time, realized, yeah, you would have killed me, but come on, I'm already dead. But he was so gentle, as if I may have been booby-trapped. And then he moved back and brushed my leg exactly the same way he came in.
So do you think that was deliberate?
And I started to breathe again.
Do you think he brushed up against you on purpose, or do you think that was accidental? From your perspective.
It was accidental because it was pitch black. and he knew about where I was.
So was he able to actually get your rifle?
Oh yes, they took it out from under me, and he backed up.
Did Did they search your body for ammo
Nothing.
or anything
They
else?
didn't touch anything.
They
Wow,
just took the
interesting.
weapon.
Just took my weapon, yes. And as I said, I didn't have my backpack on me. I was on my knees, and it was over my arm
Yeah.
because I wanted to be able to move.
Yeah, of course,
Yeah.
of course.
And so I think he just, who knows where that went when I went flying through the air.
Well, yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah.
right. So after you waited and knew they were gone, like you must have waited a couple minutes or whatever to
Seemed
make
like
sure they
forever to you.
were gone. What did you do then? What did you try and do?
I listened to the battle, and their voices, the Vietnamese language is very harsh, and you cannot understand it. And I could hear them going by me pretty silently, and I could hear the battle going on on a hill. And then I periodically would pass out. And then when I come to, I'd hear some more. And then one time I came to, and it was silent. And I said, okay. We all had medical training,
Yep.
combat training.
Yep.
Sure.
I said, I've got to try and help my rifle buddy. He was alive after the mortar round,
Yeah.
even though
The one that you heard moaning.
Yes.
Yep. Okay.
You didn't like him, but you do what you got to do.
well, he was my rifle buddy.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I stood up. I managed to get up and lock my knees back. I was bent over, and my arm dropped away. And then I heard that sound that we're all trained to hear,
Yeah.
which meant I had a sucking chest wound.
Not a good
And I
sound.
could feel it coming up through my stomach, right up
Yeah.
into my right lung, which was perforated terribly. It was shredded like you would peel a banana. And of course, so my head started going around. I said, I better get back down to where I was. And I put my arm back down and dropped back down into my position. In the meantime, of course, I had upchucked, which is your body's way of getting rid of the poison because your stomach has been perforated.
Yeah.
Right.
And if the bacteria gets into your system, you're going to die.
Yeah.
Yes.
And when I upchucked, I got sick from the bottom of my toes to the top of my head. My whole stomach was sick to its stomach
Yeah.
when I blew lunch. It was the strangest feeling. You know,
Just getting rid of
'cause
everything.
you get yes.
Yeah. It's not the simple, having the flu and a fever and,
You
being
must
over a
have emptied
toilet.
all the contents of your stomach.
Everything. Yeah.
Even the shrapnel.
Maybe.
Most of.
Yeah, there may have been some of that too. And
So you went
being a-
back.
But being the man, of course, every part of my body was perforated.
Sure.
If I had two organs, at least one was perforated.
Yeah.
I had been completely covered because I was 6 feet away from that thing.
Sure.
It would be impossible to live. And since my small and large bowels had been torn up pretty good, as well as my diaphragm to my lung,
Yeah.
which gives me pain to this day. I told this story to my son-in-law, who has unfortunately passed at a young age.
Yeah.
And I had to stop the car because I explained, I thought he was man enough at 30 to grasp the situation. and he made me stop the car, and he got sick to his stomach.
He never served though, right? He wasn't a veteran. Your son-in-law, yeah. So,
But
That's a tough story.
putting it into words like it really happened. First off, I was bleeding so badly, and I had to get rid of the waste material.
Yes. Your body's defending itself.
Yes.
The best way it can, basically.
I bet you were glad you took that shit the night before, though, huh? You didn't have to relieve yourself in your pants.
Yeah. I mean, and I
Until you got to the
tried.
hospital.
Yeah.
So,
I tried to hold it. And finally, I said, because basically I was getting a blood enema.
Yes.
oh, of course.
And finally, I just relaxed a little bit. And there we go.
So what happened when they found you in the morning, ish?
Well,
Were you awake? Were you conscious when they came to
my
you?
buddy Morningstar, he was a pure blood Sioux Indian.
Yeah.
Good guy. And the medic was there when I came to, and I saw the look on their faces, and it was dire. And so I told them a joke.
To ease the world.
Yeah, of course.
Yes, and it was a very funny joke. It wasn't a dirty one, but it was a very funny joke.
Yes.
And I told them the joke, and the medic just says, "Where's that medevac chopper?" You know,
Didn't they drop you?
and and
They were laughing and.
but he said, I said, "Well, that's the last effing time I tell you guys a joke," and then I passed out. And the next thing I know, I was on a stretcher, and we had to climb this little hill to get to the road where the chopper had landed.
Yeah.
And the guy in the back dropped his end, and I assumed by then they had patched up my second chest wound and stuff.
Yeah. This is
And I rolled 4 times
Oh, jeez.
down the hill, and I landed on my back. And I looked at the guy who dropped his end. I think he slipped going up the.
Yeah, most
Yeah.
likely, yeah. He certainly didn't do it on purpose.
And I saw the look on his face. It was like, my God, I've killed him. And I burst out laughing. And
Because you're thinking, how can it get any worse? Oh,
He
this is
said-
how.
he says, "What are you laughing at? I could have killed you." I says, "I know, but you should have seen the look on your face."
Right. You know?
And then I passed out.
Yeah.
And so when I came to later in the hospital, when they were preparing me, I felt sorry for those guys
Yeah.
because they're cutting what's left of my uniform off.
Yep.
And I heard one of them go, "Oh, no." And being a wise guy, paratrooper, I said, "Sorry about that shit." And I passed out again.
Because you had literally yourself. You defecated.
Yeah, that
Your body
all.
had to release itself. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they had to cut it off because parts of your uniform was actually burned into your skin from the.
I assume it had to be.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would assume.
Normally they would just cut like a straight line in, but when you're talking about having all that debris at that heat temperature, there's no way that they could just
Yeah.
separate
Your
your
uniform must
blouse.
have been a mess.
Oh, yeah.
And your body and
it had to have been full of holes.
Yeah.
I mean, I could.
Plus the bullets.
That's
Bullet
yeah.
holes.
And I
Everything
felt
else.
the heat and the pressure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I bet.
When that went off and I went flying through the air, it was an amazing experience. And of course, a mere 11 months later, I got out of the hospital.
That's all.
So
Just 11 months.
I mean, honestly, the rest of your story is a very good success story, and at some point we should do that. But I want to continue with this aspect. So you survived. What happened to the gentleman that was moaning, that soldier?
Oh, he was dead. After the first 30 rounds, he was
So-
gone.
And the one who got up and ran away.
The third member of our outfit, as soon as that mortar round hit, he booked it.
Yeah.
And I was contemplating doing that myself.
Well, of course you'd contemplate it.
When the mortar came
Because
in,
it
I
hills
said,
first, right?
yeah, I says, I got to get to the main body. We're out here alone. And before I could do that, I says, oh, shit.
Yeah, you were
It's
flying.
coming on top of my head. And I got blowed up.
So what happened? He took off.
He took off.
And what happened with him?
I know he was a conscript. He could not have been a paratrooper, because paratroopers don't.
He's not even a man, to be perfectly honest.
It's like you Marines. You don't abandon.
Well, yeah.
It's just,
Yeah.
it's not something you do. Right.
No, and yeah, he took off, and he survived the firefight, which
Yeah.
in the morning there was 3 of us dead, and the only one more badly wounded than me were dead. I was the worst
Yeah.
wounded.
So you were the worst casualty.
Yes.
You should have been
Basically
dead.
dead.
You should have been dead at least one giant bullet and 90 rounds should have been dead.
Yeah, and I've come to a conclusion, finally, I think it was the hand of God. I don't know how else you could stop 90 bullets from 6 feet, even in nighttime.
There's no amount of training that could have... But was there any repercussion for this? I'm not even going to call him a soldier. This rat that took off, like...
Oh, yes.
What happened with him?
Well, he survived the firefight on the hill.
Yeah.
And in the morning, he got on one of the medevac choppers, claiming he was wounded. And they got him back to the hospital, and of course they examined him, and they said, "You're not wounded."
Right. Yeah.
And so it took about 2 weeks to get him transportation back to the unit. But when he got back to the unit, the CO said, "You no longer belong to us.
Right.
If there's room on a truck, we won't stop you from getting on a truck. If there's room on a chopper, we won't stop you from getting on a chopper. But if it's full, we will not send in another chopper for you. You're on your own. We will not give you food. We will not give you ammo. You don't belong to us. Go and find a unit that will accept you." And
That's
no units.
It was the same command, correct? Like, it's not like the command changed in that 2 weeks. It was
That's a
your...
death sentence.
That's your still command, you know?
it was a death sentence. So I don't know how that worked out. The guy, and he deserved it, because he could have picked up my rifle buddy and
Or you went over there and shut him up, and anything, right?
Yeah, because
there's a lot of things that could have happened.
Right.
But you just don't abandon your friends or enemies. You don't abandon your compatriots like that.
And, you know,
Exactly.
And for all those who are watching this, if they haven't watched our Fall of Afghanistan, please watch that one, because it's a similar situation, not as far as things you personally went through, but with people being left there by our government and stuff.
That's
and
why
it
we
really
get so
affected
angry
us.
when our government leaves people behind us, because veterans have that instilled in us that we don't leave our brothers and sisters behind. And when you do, it makes you...
It's so disgusting.
It's disgusting. It makes you angry. It makes you disgusting.
And that they are not our government.
Yeah,
They're not.
Not when they do
You
that.
don't leave.
Yeah.
Yeah, it shouldn't be. So, so you got out of the Army.
Yeah, they offered me stripes.
What?
But I turned that down foolishly.
So what ribbons and or medals did you get from your time in?
Well,
And what kind of ended
18
there?
years later, I got my Purple Heart.
So 18 years. So
Well, they tried to award you the Purple Heart
66
on site, but it was in an inappropriate manner. And you said, "Keep this damn thing," right?
No, that was in a hospital when they were getting ready to discharge me. I said, "You know, Sarge, I never got my Purple Heart." "Oh, you want a Purple Heart?" And he reached in his desk and he took out a Purple Heart and threw it in front of me. I says, that's not my Purple Heart, nor the manner in which I'm supposed to receive it.
Right.
I said, you can take that Purple Heart and shove it up your ass.
And just for people to know,
Yeah.
if you look up Armand Kamiri on a simple Google search, you can find a newspaper article from Danielson, Connecticut, when I think the governor,
General.
in general, issued Armand Kamiri his Purple Heart in the proper way.
Yeah,
Right.
and the Purple Heart is up there in stature as far as ribbons and medals.
Yes.
They are personalized.
Yep.
They come with a specific certificate, unlike say the National Defense Ribbon, which
you get with
you
your
did, they give it to you with your fucking socks.
Yeah.
Like, it's not important when you talk about Congressional Medal of Honor, Silver Star, Bronze Star, Purple Heart. These are things that are very personal because of what these individuals have gone through. So that's why, and I give you credit for doing that, because not too many people would have stood up to that type
You
of
just would have taken it.
bureaucracy.
Okay, thanks, whatever.
Yeah, you know.
But you
So-
got it late, but you got it. And you, like I
It
said,
was
you can look it
18
up on a news article online.
It was 18 years later, and my then wife said, why don't you write your congressman? And so I said, oh, well, what I got to lose? So I did, because what had happened was the 101st decided they wanted to give their members the Purple Heart themselves. But at the hospital, they were issuing them at that time. And so then the 101st sent that memo. The hospital got the memo and said, oh, okay, let them do it. And
But that was
So
a really
it's like
shitty way to
mine.
do it.
you see, mine was... in-
Lost in the
Yeah.
shuffle.
Yeah, it's
And so, yeah. And there were 3 major TV stations. I didn't know they were going to do all this. And there was a half a dozen newspapers.
Yeah, and like I said, I did a Google search about this a while ago, and it's the information's there. You can find the article
Yeah.
on the internet.
It was, my brother-in-law lived in California with my sister, of course. And he brought up the LA Times. She was still in bed. And he says, who do you know that would be on the front page of the LA Times? and she started saying different movie stars.
Yep.
He said, no. And then he showed her, and it was me.
it's a.
It's cool.
I want to kind of leave it with this, and there are people who, I guess, speculate the importance of doing things like awards and certificates and doing these things. And it's not the people like yourself who didn't want to have the TV and all that. It was the fact that you deserved it for the things you've done. And I think that's why we in the military, we push so hard to reward those people like who go above and beyond. If you don't get anything other than your rank as you go up, you're doing mediocre. It's when you do something really, really great, or when you screw up really, really bad. That's when you see the old man,
You should
right?
be recognized for.
So you didn't ask for
Thank
it,
you.
but you
No,
most certainly deserved it. And
Well, thank you.
we talk about you, and when we did the audio version of this, it was one of our #1 hits. I think we were able to cover more then, but I do.
I'm going to release these simultaneously.
Yeah, and I wanted to schedule another one to talk about education with you, Ian, but I also want to schedule one to talk about your success after that time, because
And in a
the things
nutshell,
you've done since then.
You've had a successful life and career as a local police officer, state police officer, and multiple other things in spite of your injuries. And I think that would be a great life lesson story to tell our disabled veterans and clients.
Oh, absolutely. And you still managed to slum it with us. So,
Well, there you go. I mean, we got to have shooting partners.
That's right.
yep.
All right.
Yeah.
Thanks, folks, for joining us. And if you have any comments or questions, let us know. Like, comment, subscribe, and share this story with as many people as you can, because it's worth sharing.
Absolutely.